Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our new guest, Claire Napier. We're here to break down the magic necklace and everything in between. Welcome to the stream, Claire. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. I'm doing good. I've got slightly cold feet, but not in the metaphorical sense. It's just literal.
Well, hopefully we can warm things up with our chat. So before we dive into the magic necklace, let's begin with a little introduction to who you are and how you started creating comics. I know we were talking backstage a little bit, and you were saying, you know, when you do the art, you just got to do it. You know, like I really love that mentality with it. So let's kind of deep dive like how you started getting into art.
Well, I suppose I was just never not encouraged to create as a child. I mean, both at the time this was not the case, but now both my parents are teachers, and I think that is just a natural way of being for them. Mm-hmm. They raised my sister and I as teachers would. So they were like good teachers. I mean, some teachers aren't so great. But yeah, I just was always encouraged to explore and to learn through doing, which on the whole allowed for, at least in childhood, that barrier didn't arise of it has to be something, it has to be good enough. You can just have fun. It was an enjoyable thing to do, to paint or to draw or to imagine. It was never something that had to be achieved. It was just a way to spend the afternoon. So early on, I would mainly draw dolphins and princesses and Robin Hood adventures and things like that. Nothing sequential back then, I don't think, but
that's so awesome. I really love that mentality too. You know, drawing is just how to spend the afternoon. You don't really need to draw to do something, like just draw to like let it out. You know, and I think like that right there, that utilizing that type of mindset like really will just let your creative like energy just flow instead of like let it get hindered like that. When did you see yourself really starting to dive into this sequential art side of things?
Well, as a reader around the same time, I have a very strong, very specific memory of my mum was ill and I was ill. So we were both in my parents' bigged up bed, and my dad came home early, which was always exciting because it wasn't the norm, you know. It's always exciting in childhood when something's different. He came home early and he bought each of us a magazine for our sick beds. And he got mum some ladies magazine, I don't know. But he got me Bunty, which was a girls' weekly comic magazine. At that point, it was more magazine than comic, but it had comics in, and it was notable to me because it felt like a magazine for a bigger girl. I was very little at this time. I don't think my sister had been born, so I was probably about 4. And it had, you know, a photograph of a girl on the cover with one of those floppy 90s hats with like the fabric flower at the front. Mm-hmm. So it looked, you know, if not teenage, then at least there was something about it that just had an air of agency about it. Like, if I was good enough to read this magazine, if I was a big enough girl to read this magazine, then I'd sort of leveled up, which felt great. So I attached a lot of importance to that magazine, and it had comics inside of it, and I just read them as if they were natural and normal, because what do I know? This is my first magazine. I also read other comic magazines like that, like Girl Talk had some comic strips. It had a Sweet Valley Twins photo story, I think, and Animal Action, I think, sometimes had comic strips. So it was quite normal to read comics. My dad sometimes would also bring in Asterix or Peanuts or something, but it didn't seem. I kind of had sort of a mental barrier about what is possible, because I could spend time enjoying creation. But I didn't, because I didn't think of it as producing some finished object, I didn't really associate it with objects, the objects that I saw, like books and so on. I didn't connect the two, really. It wasn't, and I kind of had no idea that you could be someone who did that. It just didn't occur to me that people made these things and that they existed through creation and process. So comics weren't really something anyone took seriously in my life for a long time. I mean really, they still don't, outside of the people I know from comics. But like, never in school we were never encouraged to create comics, or if we were, it was in a very grinding kind of way. Yeah. Like you have to like draw, I don't know, like the sequence of this king making that charter road. Like the process was clearly not to have a good time drawing a comic or to make a good looking comic or an interesting comic. It was just to reprocess some information that I could just read. So I didn't really make comics of my own until I wanted to make them while I was at university. I had stories that I wanted to have made, but I couldn't do it because it was too overwhelming. Just the idea of drawing an entire world. There's too much dimension in every panel. I couldn't face it. So as far as I remember, and like I said, sometimes I do not remember what I've done, the first comic that I did was probably when I was about 22. And I had this idea, well, I was unemployed at the time, and not very joyful. So I just needed to do things. I needed to if I had an idea, I needed to pursue it, or else there was nothing. So I just had this random idea of making characters for sanitary towels. And then each of them, like characters who would, within the process of a story, which I would make a comic for the story, would become covered in blood. So that when you put the sanitary towel to work, you sort of complete the picture, as it were. Which I thought was a really fun idea. And I still do, really. You know, like, if anyone wants to back that project, let me know. But yeah, I did 1.5 of the comics that I had in mind for that. I did one about a barbarian woman, which I called Reda Sonia because I like stupid jokes. And then the second one was about a biker werewolf, but I didn't finish that one. I don't know where those pages are now. I look for them sometimes, but I've never found them.
You know, I think it's really interesting how you were talking about you know, when you were younger, reading these comics and doing art and not realizing that you could do that too, and you know, when you finally, you know, at an older age, made that connection. Like, how did that feel when you finally started making art and doing stuff that you wanted to do, and when you made that connection that you could actually do this?
I felt bad because I was still in that mindset that you mentioned before of feeling like it needed to be better. You know, like it needed to be as good as the best thing I'd ever seen. And knowing that it wasn't, but not really enjoying the process of trying to get it better because I was doing it out of that sense of obligation and like a lack of self-worth, essentially. Like, it was an insecurity impulse that also ground on my insecurity. So I didn't have a good time. Like, I felt a sort of technical achievement, but it didn't really elevate my mood.
No, I get that. So after working on some of your own work, did you ever branch out and start working with other creators as well, or has everything kind of been solo for you?
I have. I made I wrote a short which Ten Van Winkle drew and Anastasia Longoria coloured, called My Love Does Not Deserve Me. That's a gothic horror, just a short one. And Tan and I are sort of background working on, like, every now and then one of us checks in on the other, like, are you in the place to do this right now or not right now? You know, like, someday we'll get there. But the project for that one is the idea of a satanic rock star who gets born again, and his very angry atheist housekeeper, a romance comic. Ooh. Which I think would be a great deal of fun.
Yeah. Born again and atheism. That is like two conflicting sides.
Right, exactly. It's fun. Like, romance is about tension, right? So making some interesting tension is half the battle.
Oh, that is awesome. And we're here actually to talk about another romance, a horror romance comic about getting what you deserve, The Magic Necklace. For everyone that is watching, be sure to sign up to be notified when this goes live on Zoop. This is going live on Valentine's Day. What a perfect launch date too. What time are you what time are you going live with it?
What time?
Oh, yeah.
Idea. It didn't occur to me to ask.
So we at least know it's on Valentine's Day. Not a big deal. That's why you sign up to be notified. Yeah, that's why you sign up to be notified, so you get that alert. So The Magic Necklace, I had the chance to read this. Thank you so much. I love your art style so much in this. It is different from so many different comics that I have read. Can you give us a little bit about some of the techniques that went into this? I mean, you utilize you know, black, white, and pink. So I thought that was like really interesting as well. So give us a little bit about kind of some of the art style and direction that went into this.
Well, I drew it with a pink pen, and then I drew it with a black pen. And then I scanned those pages and I added screen tone in pink and black. It's really extremely minimal process, but that's kind of all that I can stand at this point. I'm trying to build stamina, but for me, because we do all battle with the internal quality control overseer, for me, deciding exactly how much effort or promise I'm going to give away on each book is the only way to not feel that horrible obligation that ruins everything. So the previous book I did, Take Me to the Place I Love, I just drew it with a pen. And then Douglas Noble, who edited the book and the series that it's in, like the loose series, it's not like sequential, it's just like an imprint, a pocket chiller. He did some like design work, did some color adjustment, so that it just to add a little bit more visual interest, and make it a little bit more specific to the narrative and the atmosphere. So in this case, I just wanted to go slightly further, add one extra layer, as it were, 3 literal layers in computer file terms. Yeah, I wanted to add something, but also something that meant something, because process for process sake, what's the point? I like process for narrative sake.
I was going to say
that it worked.
The pink was so visually striking, and then that in combination with the heart texturing, it was just, I just loved how it all worked together in combination. Was there any special symbolism behind, you know, the use of the pinks and the heart texturing?
Is there any symbolism behind a pink heart? That's an interesting question. There is, in fact, and it wasn't invented by me. It's actually a fairly commonly known cultural asset. Yeah, like the Valentine's Day thing is not a coincidence, you know? For romance, pink hearts are kind of it, you know, the cliche. I mean, I could have made it red, but I think that red would have been too obvious. Not exactly obvious, but it's not the right... Red doesn't have the right personality for this story, for Ann-Rita. She's a pink girl. So I went with pink.
That's awesome. We have Mama Geekly over on Facebook stopping in to say very impressive and that she loves the colors. Yeah, I really think, you know, even just on the, I think you said it was page 3, the interior right there, the way the pink was utilized was just awesome. The way, you know, the bottom paneling, you had Billy drawn, but then you had him like sketched in the pink next to him, and it was just like I said, visually striking. Let's kind of dive back into Ann-Rita, and a little bit about, you know, her in particular. So she finds a special necklace, Morgan Le Fay's necklace. What does this necklace do?
Well, it's magic.
So what type of magical properties does it have?
It has the magical property of being magic. Like I'm not trying to be difficult, I promise. So I admit I may be succeeding. The magic itself is not something that I want to or wanted to get into as like a lore-based thing, because I think that would be a distraction. It's magic because magic as a concept is transformative and metaphorical. To have magic is to be able to do things that are impossible. That's if you can boil magic down to anything, it's probably that. It allows you to do things that are impossible, and that was pretty much what I needed to make the story work. The possibility of the impossible. And rhetorically, quite vital.
And I mean, we see that happen. Like Ann-Rita, she's not afraid of, you know, guys standing behind her. She's not afraid of the fuzz of her brother, you know. So this necklace does do a lot for her. And I just love how you incorporated the necklace, her, and then we meet Billy, and oh man, he was such a scuzzball. And just like how like everything evolved. Like, this story has such a twist. I do not think the readers are going to be prepared for. That's why you guys need to sign up for this today to be notified when it goes live. Right there it is. And be sure to share that on Facebook and Twitter. Word of mouth is 100% free. So is this this is a one shot, or are you planning on developing this into a series?
No, this is a one shot for sure. The whole story is right there. But I do kind of consider it part of a series, like like a series in terms of my work. Like I mentioned, My Love Does Not Deserve Me, and then Take Me to the Place I Love. They're all horror romance. They're all varyingly explicit, but thematically very relevant to one another. In my opinion, able you want to kill me and say they're all different, but while I'm here, they're all growth objects, you know. Like sometimes you need to put things down in a new form before you can become your own next new form. Every time I do one, I get stronger.
That's awesome.
So yeah, there's one coming right after. And I mean, hopefully there's 1.5 coming right after, because if we fully fund, our stretch goals are to pay for pages from Warwick Johnson Cadwell, who I wrote a short for him, and I can't afford to pay him to make it without putting it as stretch goals. So if you would like to see that fine fellow's beautiful pages on a story about a vampire and a cutie meeting and taking a little time at a Freshers Week party, then tell all your friends and give us all your money, because I would really like that to happen.
We have Mama Geekly over on Facebook saying, red is too original when we were talking about the pink. And then magic comes from your heart. You just got to believe. I think that is some words of wisdom right there as well. So speaking of campaigns, do you have any idea like what some of these tiers are going to be? Or, you know, what type of rewards we can expect from the magic necklace?
Well, I think there's going to be a book plate, and I think there's going to be a print. We're looking into certain apparel options, and we're also considering a dildo.
Interesting.
with the necklace integrated, because it is an explicit book in parts, and it is a book about one's right to pleasure.
Yes.
And the reasonableness of wanting. Can I swear?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Of wanting to fuck or be fucked. So, and the necklace itself representing safety, ultimate safety, and the inability to be truly harmed. Combining a big pink fake penis and that imagery seemed.
I love it so much.
Fairly apt.
we had Richard Fairgray on. He's one of our good friends, and he had the mantle for the most the most like craziest reward tier. It was a popper bottle, and you could untwist it, and it has like a QR code for a digital comic. I think you just took the mantle though with the dildo. That is so awesome. We have Mama Geekly saying, "I'm dying. I might have to get." Whoa, Mom!
Yeah.
That is so awesome. So, outside of the magic necklace, we were talking a little bit about some of your stretch goals leading to another story. Is that all you have up your sleeve for 2023? Or is there any other projects that you might be working on?
Well, okay. I will be drawing Green Snake, which is 60 pages, so I'm a little bit scared, but I'm gonna do it. I will be hopefully finishing a redraw of my older book, Dash Dearborn and the Unexpected Earthman, which is more of a rom-com, but with a lot of existential issues. But funny.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't think it's a secret. Mike Morocco and I are working on a pitch for what we're hoping to be sort of a Crying Freeman kind of thing, but set in Anglo-Saxon Britain with a lot of theological arguments. But that also is imagine like a kung fu sex movie, but it's about monks and saints. I'm excited.
No, I love it.
And then of course there are all the editing projects. So if you want me to list those, I can't. I won't remember every one of them.
We have Dan Price stopping in over on YouTube from Bigfoot Knows Karate, stopping in to say, hey, welcome to the stream, Dan. I hope you are doing good as well. One last time, guys. This campaign is still in pre-launch. It is going live on Valentine's Day. So if you haven't gotten your significant other special gift, be sure to back this book and get them the magic necklace today. Claire, before we let you go, I always love ending the show on a strong note. And I think I have one hell of a question for you. So for anyone out there who is struggling balancing, their art, their craft, and they're just stuck wanting to make it perfect, but they shouldn't. They should just put it down and move on. What is your advice for them to kind of break that barrier and just get creating?
Just make an ugly one. Just decide you're going to make a bad comic and make it. Because if you think a comic has to be gorgeous, have you ever read one? Because most of them aren't. And that doesn't mean that most of them are bad, although probably if we're looking at all comics ever made, let's not get into that. There are so many extremely strong sequential narratives that plenty of people would say that is ugly about. But they have people who read them and people who love them and people who see the value in what they look like and people who try and make their own books look that way. Stop being so arrogant that you think you're the one person who has to make a perfect, beautiful piece of wonderful art. Just do your best. And if it's ugly, so what? So what? Plenty of them are. You
at least have something out there when you wouldn't have had anything, I think that's important too. We have Mama Geekly saying, stick to your guns, don't give up, stay safe out there. And and that she loves your honesty. Thank you so much. Everyone watching, this has been a awesome Thursday. Right here is the link for this great Zoop campaign. Once again, Claire, thank you for swinging by, hanging out with us, breaking down the magic necklace, and everything in between. Everyone watching, I hope you have a lovely Thursday afternoon, but most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.